Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the conjunction of Chiron and Pluto. Guys, please hit the like button if you can. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'm having a class on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Philly, New York, US, East Coast. Cost is $10 and the topic will be retrogrades. I'm going to do a presentation about all the different retrogrades of all different planets. So yeah, just email me if you want to get on the list. And all right, so what is Chiron and Pluto? So Chiron is this weird minor planet in between Saturn and Uranus. It has a weird, unusual elliptical orbit, where when it's in Libra, it's closer to the orbit of Saturn, and when it's in Aries, it's closer to the orbit of Uranus. And it kind of takes qualities of both of those planets, but it's very unique unto itself. It is a minor planet. It is oddly shaped. It does have rings. It also has the tail of a comet. So you can see that it defies all stereotypes, all classifications. It's just in a league of its own. It's a class of its own. It's Chiron. It's one of a kind. It's, incomparable. It's in many ways more unique than Uranus. So it's just total out of the box uniqueness. And that's great for originality, for creativity, for thinking outside the box, for that X factor, that thing that separates one of a kind, unique quality from just everybody else, right? And mythologically, Chiron was a centaur, but a different kind of centaur. He was born with a full human body and a horse growing out his rear, horse's torso. Whereas, the regular centaur is a full horse's torso and the upper torso of a body, human body. Because of this, he was rejected by his mother. So the initial theme of Chiron is rejection, or at least if it's badly aspected. But then Chiron grew up to become a spiritual teacher. Unlike the other centaurs who are very aggressive, very warlike, and very sexual, right? Low vibe, right? He was very evolved, spiritual teacher. He was a healer. He was a medicine man, basically a shaman, also astrologer, a wise man. Just very spiritually evolved. And then through a series of events, he got shot in the arrow with a poison arrow and died. That he himself made this poison for Hercules upon request, because he was excellent. He's a healer. He's excellent with all the herbs and medicine, and he knows how to make all the concoctions as well as poisons, right? So highly knowledgeable type person. But Chiron's completely unique mythologically, and as far as the planet itself, and it definitely brings in, for me, it conjures up images of like all kinds of fictional characters, right? Comic book or superheroes, things like that. But it could translate to anything. And what is Pluto? Pluto is the farthest out. Pluto is also a minor planet, but it has tremendous significance. We give it tremendous weight in astrology. It co-rules Scorpio. It is related to, you could say, Hades, the ruler of Hades. It rules death and rebirth and sex and sexuality and psychology and deep desire and wanting to control things, right? Pluto's kind of the mastermind, the chess master, the puppet master, right? It's looking at the whole chessboard and wanting to control the whole game. So people with strong Pluto definitely have this desire to control others, to control everything, to control the situation, to dominate. It's really a kind of egomaniac or megalomaniac kind of planet potentially, but it also creates intense transformation, and in the positive aspect, it's highly spiritualizing factor because it wants you to evolve, and it brings crisis and transformation. So it's very polarizing in that way, Pluto. can be tremendously a growth factor for spiritual development, or a planet for, you know, megalomaniac kind of, you know, totalitarian dictatorship kind of thing. So Chiron and Pluto is very interesting, because now you're taking something that's on the one hand very, very deep thinking, which is Pluto, psychological deep thinking, masterminding, right? Strategy, you know, war strategists have this, chess masters have, you know, a strong Pluto. And then you're bringing in a very high level planet that is has dual aspects to it. One hand, you know, the spirituality, the healing, being a teacher, shaman. The other hand, being rejected, and then having this painful wound that kills him, right? So you can see how there's a lot of drama involved, but total uniqueness and ability to sort of have this mastermind mentality and be totally creative as well, and outside the box thinking. So you're going to get very unique characters with this, and a certain kind of brilliance, plutonic brilliance, that the Chiron will lend itself to, just being able to be so unique and different and outside the box and very high level at the same time. So let's look at what we got here for examples, as usual. And we have to start with Aries. Aries is number one, always. Aries is number one. Okay. And we have Ulysses S. Grant, who is a great example of this, because he was the general of the Northern Army, and he became president too. And you know, forgive me for not knowing that much about him. I just know that he was a very powerful general, and that is very much in line with Pluto in Aries, especially at 0 degrees, conjunct Chiron, right? In 11th house, ruling groups, networks, commanding the brigade, leading the effort of the army, very strong. And then he's got, you know, very strong first house, even though it's in 12th quadrant, it's flowing into the ascendant, Saturn, Sun, Jupiter, right? Jupiter is excellent in the first. It's in Taurus, which is okay. Saturn, Sun makes him very disciplined, strict, Saturnian, right? Really nice trine here to Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn, which is totally fascinating, because we actually had this is the 90s conjunction as well. Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn, but we're going way back to 1822 for that. So really interesting, giving him a lot of extra, even more creative genius, right? Because Neptune is, especially in Capricorn, Saturn, a little off by degree, but still trining, so bonifying this, making this kind of creative genius in as far as philosophy goes, adventure, travel, that sort of thing, important for a general. South Node Mars, excellent for military, sort of, you know, command, leadership, just in general for anything like the military. He's got a moon in Cancer, domicile in the 4th. That's good. And then North Node in the 10th. So for career, for wanting to be, you know, fighting, or at least, you know, prominent in the career. But South Node in the 4th and Mars in the 4th also, and then Moon in Cancer, conjunct the 4th house cusp. So it's definite strong connection to land, homeland, right? The home, which would be the United States of America. Right? Love of it, and protection. Mars wants to protect. Mars in Leo is very sort of fights for noble causes, right? That's what it wants. It's very noble, and it's got to stand up for its honor. Venus in Pisces, 11th house, right? And then, so Chiron is square Uranus and Neptune, which is interesting. That's definitely a tense aspect and a fighting aspect. Squares make a person fight, right? Or fight, not necessarily physically, but they're going to make a person really work hard, right? So this Pluto Chiron square, I mean, squares to Chiron might not be so great in some ways because it'll bring out the wounds, the rejection, and I don't know how that relates to his life. Forgive me for being short on details. I just don't have the time to research every single person that well. But certainly with the Chiron conjunct Pluto, it's going to, squares to Pluto are very deeply intense because Pluto, even though this is a wide, even though it's more towards Chiron, Pluto's involved. Pluto has such deep desires that, and it wants to control so desperately that, a square will make it, go to the extreme, right? And it's at 0 degrees Aries, so it's a very aggressive Pluto, very warlike Pluto. And I mean, Mars is in Leo, so a fellow fire sign, they're not trine by degree, but trine by sign. So again, that's supportive, mildly supportive because it's lacking the degrees, but still, right? Ascendant Lord Venus exalted. So you can see this military genius, creative military genius, high-level military genius is strong with Grant. And the square to Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn, the squares to Neptune might create some sort of delusionality, but Capricorn is so contracted, dry, and then Uranus is quite intellectually brilliant that maybe it's kind of holding together, I think. Plus he's so Saturnian anyway, and then his Mercury's in Aries. Aries is very focused. He's not getting too much of the delusional Neptunian aspect in there. It's just sort of making him very creative, very unique, very original, and kind of brilliant in his strategy, right? Yeah. Uranus is very sudden, so this could be like having very sudden attacks, sudden way of doing things. In any case, military genius, out of the box, creative. That's bottom line. Who else has it in Aries? Stonewall Jackson, and he was a Southern general. He was he was the second top general of the South. And then Gregor Mendel was a biologist and geneticist. So obviously Pluto can relate very well to science too, as well as military strategy. So you're going to see a lot of scientists too, and a lot of creative types in general. Let's go to Taurus, and in Taurus we have Pablo Picasso, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Virginia Woolf, James Joyce, Khalil Gibran, and Igor Stravinsky. So a lot of leaders for that sort of masterminding as well as creative types, especially in Taurus. We're going to look at Stravinsky, mostly because I looked up the other one. I've included the other ones in other videos, so I like to spread it around. Igor Stravinsky, if you don't know, was a pianist and a composer, major one. Very celebrated one. And so he's got his sun exactly conjunct the MC, Jupiter, very strong 10th house, moon in Cancer in the 10th, conjunct Mercury and Venus, so very creative. It's like it's very nice. When moon is surrounded by softer planets, that's quite good, like Jupiter, Mercury, Venus. Venus, the moon is a bit indulgent, it's very feminine. So he's very soft, feminine, or at least part of him is. That's quite good. Also very creative. I would say a tendency towards depression, because Jupiter is not Jupiter's in poor dignity in Gemini in the 9th house. But South Node is conjunct Pluto and Chiron, and then Saturn also, and then Neptune in Taurus. So Taurus for artistic creativity, beauty, all of that. It's 8th, 9th. So, you know, 8th house will bring in like the depth, the intensity. 9th house is the connection to God, the philosophy, the higher mindedness, right? So it's that transition that he's going from the deep into the connection to God. So it's like rising up, Scorpio to Sag, right? There's a square to Mars and Leo, square Chiron and Saturn, which is pretty intense. That's bringing a lot of tension. North Node in Scorpio in the 3rd house, so definitely skills of the hands, things like that, and a lot of intensity because South Node Pluto, North Node Scorpio, right? But also Gemini, skills of the hands. So 3rd house, 3rd sign, right? 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Uranus in Virgo ascendant. So great ability to analyze and be like kind of brilliant, intellectually brilliant, analytical, perfectionist, editorial. So yeah, deeply intense, powerfully creative with the South Node Pluto Chiron, but very holding it like very crystallized because Saturn's conjunct Neptune and Chiron, and then Virgo ascendant. Virgo's very solid as well. Chiron is trying the ascendant as well as Pluto and South Node. So you can see like there's a lot of beautiful, soft feminine coming from the moon, Mercury, Venus, and then the Gemini brings in a lot of skill, and then the Taurus 8th, 9th is like deeply intense, and then striving towards something very high. You can see how it's all very beautiful, and then the Mars square Saturn and Chiron for like intensity and drive and something kind of quite masculine and aggressive. Interesting, but just powerful creativity. All right, so that is Taurus, and we can see with all the other examples that you know, something very similar in Taurus, great creative ability. Let's go to Gemini, and in Gemini we have Isaac Newton, Coco Chanel, Benito Mussolini, Franz Kafka, Harry Truman, and Amadeo Modigliani. So again, similar kind of thing with scientists, artists, designers, and leaders, writers. Yeah, and let's look up Modigliani. And if you don't know who he is, I'm going to familiarize yourself with him. Let me try something. Bear with me. We're just going to take a look at some of his art just so you understand what this conjunction would look like in an artist, famous artist. Okay. You can see Pluto and Chiron. Chiron is the highly unique, original, just one of a kind. Pluto is the deep intensity, right? So think very, very deep. And this is Gemini, so skills of the hands, expression, powerful, deep, creative, unique, original. I mean, don't you feel like this is so intense? Like, can you feel the Pluto? It's just like powerful. I mean, you have to feel it in a way because you can't like directly, you know, with art, it's all about feeling. You're not getting a direct scientific sort of translation. but you can feel the intensity with this kind of work. He was not even famous during his life. He's one of these people who, after he died, he became famous. But you see how intense these are? They're all basically portraits too. Pluto is very psychological, so I think that relates strongly to. He also did sculptures. These are Pluto also for sexuality. I mean, that's pretty intense. That's pretty strong. Boom, right there. I mean, we'll just leave it at that. We don't need to go any further. Pluto, Chiron, Gemini, conjunct the MC. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. Neptune in Taurus for beautiful imagination and creativity. Of course, Mars and Uranus in Virgo in the first house. Mars conjunct Uranus is like aggressive and shocking at the same time. It's kind of explosive. Mars pushes whatever it conjuncts or squares, and Uranus is the shocking quality, right? And very awake, enlightened. So Mars is pushing the shockingness. So he's like aggressively shocking, like he wants to shock people in a very forceful way. And Virgo is, very contracted, very intellectual, analytical, puritanical. And then he's got a really nice, Cancerian quality as well for the soft feminine quality. Sun, Venus, Mercury. Venus and Mercury conjunct are often seen in artists as well, artists, musicians, creative types, right? Because Mercury ruling expression, Venus is the body, the beauty, the aesthetics. So it's all quite strong, prominent. Moon in Pisces, very creative. Moon square Chiron, that's quite intense. He might have felt like an outsider, right? South nodes square the ascendant lord and Venus and basically sun. That's really intense. So that's showing that this is destined, something that he has to confront in his life in a very strong way because the nodes demand it. Second house Venus also activating this Venus, 11th house. So he has to deal with beauty, right? That's something extremely important to him. Creative beauty, because disposited by Cancer, disposited by the moon's in Pisces in the 7th, others, going towards others. So like other people, that's why he's always painting people. Very weird people, moon square Chiron, right? But it's beautiful. It's great. I mean, it's so successful. So, let me just check here. Venus is retro, so his sense of beauty is very unusual. Everything else is fast. See that? Well, except for sun and moon, slow moon. So the creativity is slowing down. It's becoming very slow, which is powerful. It's slower, it's more powerful, more potent. So Venus is slow and retro. So his sense of beauty is against the grain, unusual. His aesthetic value, but potent at the same time. So that's Modigliani. All right. We're going to skip over some of these because just that's the way it goes with these outer planets. They don't conjunct very often. But in Cancer, there's Severus Alexander. He was a Roman emperor. And we're just going to leave it at that. We're not going to look at it. Don't want to waste any time because it's just not relevant. And I don't think anyone will mind. But let's look at Leo. And who do we have in Leo? But John Lennon, Bruce Lee, Paul McCartney, Muhammad Ali, Bernie Sanders, Harrison Ford, Stephen Hawking, and Barbra Streisand. And no doubt many more, but, I think that's enough for examples. We're going to look at Bruce Lee. And And Bruce Lee, I think, is a pretty unique example of this combination. First of all, what made Bruce Lee so intense? Primarily, Mars and Scorpio square Pluto in Leo. It's exact. You know, when an aspect is exact, whether it's conjunct, trine, square, sextile, whatever, that's powerful. That's extremely potent. It's like, and a good analogy is like in baseball, if you hit the ball at the right angle, at the right spot, you get a home run, right? It's out of the park. But if you, and that would be like an exact conjunction by degree. And then if you just like each degree off, it's going to be a less successful hit until the point where it's missing, you know. But if you just like, you know, if it's a few degrees off, you're gonna hit it, but you might just get like a, you know, a hit, like one base or something like that. I don't know why I'm using baseball, but it seems like a good analogy. Anyway, when it's exact, that's a home run. That's a home run hit. And this is a square, means working hard. Now if you know anything about Bruce Lee, he worked his butt off. Like he was just nonstop. He was a maniac as far as working. Mars in Scorpio, it's in domicile. It's conjunct Venus, which is also excellent. Mars conjunct Venus is excellent for physicality, right? You see this a lot. The Rock has Mars conjunct Venus. I don't know. There's probably many more who have it that are also like, you know, bodybuilders or athletes or, you know, that sort of thing. Martial artists, fighters, physical trainer, you know. Difficult part is that he's got Mars conjunct Moon. That's more difficult because Moon is in it's debilitated in Scorpio. It has some dignity actually because it's the third triplicity lord, but where Mars is strong and Moon is weak, Mars dominates the Moon when they're conjunct, especially, or if there's a bad aspect. Unfortunately, Venus also in Scorpio, Venus is not good. So he likes to take advantage of weaker people in this. And this is actually somebody commented on the Bruce Lee video that yeah, it's some not so good stuff about him, that he was like kind of a bully and taking advantage of other people. This is slightly a criminal aspect. And I think if he wasn't like so famous, it might have turned to, you know, beating people up and extorting them for money or something like that, you know. But in any case, yes, extremely powerful. Mars square Pluto and Chiron. And the Pluto, so you know, Venus square Chiron. The Pluto and Chiron here, it's in the 8th quadrant, but coming into the 9th house. So 8th, 9th, you know. And if you want an analogy for that, it's sort of like, you know, a transition period, any transition period, like dusk or dawn, you know what I mean? Like where it's in between two things. I mean, we see this often. In any case, Pluto and Chiron is going to give him very unique, powerful presence, also philosophy, because it's influencing the 9th house. So his frame of mind, his ability to perceive in a certain way, he was very philosophical, right? I mean, that's also because he's got his sun conjunct the ascendant in Sag, right? And then Jupiter conjunct Saturn in the 6th, it's basically conjunct the 6th cusp. Shows that he's very hardworking, first of all, but very disciplined, but also Jupiter and Saturn conjunct can be like a leader, a teacher, a leader, because these are both very high level, you know, authoritative planets. Jupiter writes the law, Saturn enforces the law, right? So he created his own martial arts, right? So he was a teacher And obviously movies are going to be very big for him because 12th house, right? But yeah, let's see, Mars ruling the 12th, so for movies, and then 5th house, entertainment. So totally unique. Leo, fame, recognition, worldly association. It's also trine the ascendant and sun. So the sun is bonifying this Pluto and Chiron. It's just making him extremely powerful, one of a kind, unique, legendary, right? Chiron is the X factor. And because it's relating to the sun, the ascendant, and Mars and Venus, it's just like, he's a legend. Yep. All right, so that is Leo. And it's good to have squares in your chart, because without squares, you're just not gonna, you're gonna just sit there and do nothing, right? You might be very talented and skilled. If you have all trines, you might be skilled in a certain way and have it easy, but you're not gonna make efforts. You're not gonna try that hard. All right. Sagittarius. We have to skip over Virgo, Libra, Scorpio is nothing. Nada. And in Sagittarius, it's a pretty recent conjunction because it just happened recently. All right, we have Willow Smith, Madison Beer, who's a singer, Lil Nas X, Lily Rose Depp, Brooklyn Beckham, and Jackie Evancho. So we have a lot of celebrity children who I'm not going to look at their charts because they're only famous because their parents. But I included them just for whatever. And then Madison Beer is a very young, controversial singer. There's Lil Nas X, who's that. I mean, I personally have issue. He did. he made those Satan sneakers. Anyways, and then I would have liked to have done Jackie Evancho, who is a singer, and I saw her on America's Got Talent, and she's pretty good. But let's look at Madison Beer, and you probably never heard of her, but she's one of these young singers who's okay. Her real she's kind of unique because she's very controversial. She gets a lot of people don't like her because she's very pretty, but she kind of has this provocative energy that annoys people, and people I watched a little bit of a video when I was looking at her chart, and it was saying like how there was all these rumors about her that like she slept with or dated like a whole bunch of people when it wasn't true. But essentially she's got Mars and Scorpio in the 6th. So conflict, and Scorpio is Mars in the 6th is great for fighting, but it's also going to be quite conflictual. Also, Pluto and Chiron in the 7th, in Sag. So she is facing some rejection. Partially, this Mars and Scorpio in the 6th is so strong, it's rubbing people the wrong way. And it is creating this kind of, exotic beauty, because Mars and Venus, and Sun and Moon and Ascendant Lord are all going to influence looks. And yeah, but also Chiron and Pluto in the 7th. This might be a little bit difficult, but that's not all. She's got South Node Uranus in the conjunct the MC, so shocking. Uranus is in Aquarius, so like very controversial, shocking figure. She does have some strong aspects that are, giving her fame, and she still is famous. Justin Bieber made her famous. She was singing and he found her and tweeted about her or whatever. But like, she's got some really nice trines and sextiles going on, and that is giving her talent. She's not a great singer, to be honest. And if you look at her second lord, Moon's in Libra in the 5th house, so that's good. Moon is in good aspect to the nodes, but Moon in Libra is just okay, right? And then Venus is so Jupiter's conjunct her ascendant lord, in Aries, and that's probably why she has some good success, plus the trines, and South Node conjunct the MC as well. And Venus is conjunct Jupiter as well, a little wide, but still. But Venus is also ruling Libra opposite. It's wide, but it's bonifying this moon. Moon's the second lord. So that's, and then as well as Saturn ruling the MC at 0 degrees Taurus for voice, right? 12th house, creativity. So there is some voice action there, but she's not a great singer. I mean, go listen to her. She's okay. Right? It's like, okay. But her main thing is like, she's got this really exotic look, very prominent sun in the 10th house, in Pisces. So creative, a lot of nice trines, very strong Mars. Mars is ruling the 6th and the 11th whole sign house, so career success, but definitely controversial and fighty. She's a fighter, right? So for her, she kind of expects conflict and competition and spite, and Scorpio is the sign that everybody loves to hate. Really, because people are obsessed with Scorpio, but they don't also. Scorpio can easily make enemies because Scorpio, especially Mars and Scorpio in the 6th house, because this is unequal relationships. Scorpio is a sign that wants to dominate, and it assumes that it is superior to others. Scorpio kind of has a superiority complex, right? However, 6th house is inferiority complex. That's why 6th house wants to serve others, but it wants to fight at the same time. Those are the two sides of the 6th house. 6th house will fight for equality, fight for the, it's like the underdog. It's like, the small little dog complex. So this is a very conflictual Mars that is gonna fight, right? And it expects fighting. And also, when Neptune, or sorry, Pluto is in the 7th. There's also one's, power, control, and domination. Pluto is in the house of equality, but Pluto is not about equality, right? So Pluto in the 7th wants to control. So she's going to create enemies. And then Chiron here definitely makes her unique, but with Pluto in the 7th conjunct Chiron, and then Mars in the 6th and Scorpio, it will rub people the wrong way. She's going to have her fans, of course, right? But she's always going to create conflict for herself. And then she's got her North Node in Leo in the 4th house. So, after she reaches a certain age, she's going to want to drop out of the public, although it's mixed, because actually it's going to activate her sun, which is very prominent in Pisces. So we'll see how it goes, but definitely there'll be like some kind of shift of energy, but she might still maintain celebrity status and be creative at that time. I mean, she's got some really good things going on, but she's going to create a lot of enemies. And for her, it's okay. She's like, bring it on. I love to fight. She's born to fight, so she's happy with enemies. I mean, that's the thing you got to remember about astrology and about certain positions, is that that's what they expect. They get what they expect. So for her, like creating enemies, it was a given. It's just like, yeah, that's normal. That's life. That's the way it goes. It's not a problem for her. She needs to fight. And nobody in Capricorn or Aquarius. Okay, but in Pisces, we have Karl Marx, Queen Victoria, Emily Bronte, Charlotte Bronte, Henry David Thoreau, and Walt Whitman. So very creative people. And let's go to Emily Bronte. Emily Bronte, one of the Bronte sisters. So amazing. Emily and Charlotte Bronte, both famous writers. Emily Bronte, I have to read. So she died so young, but she wrote Wuthering Heights, and she was like extremely reclusive and shy. But everyone was surprised about this Wuthering Heights book. I never read it. I don't really know anything. That's why I have to read this, because it's kind of interesting. The novel's innovative structure somewhat puzzled critics. Wuthering Heights' violence and passion led the Victorian public, many early reviewers, to think that it had been written by a man. So Victorian, that's reference to Queen Victoria, who had the same conjunction. The vivid sexual passion and power of its language and imagery impressed, bewildered, and appalled reviewers. Literary critic, blah, blah, blah. Expecting in the wake of Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre to be swept in the urn of, you were instead shocked and confounded by a tale of unchecked primal passions, replete with savage cruelty and outright barbarism. So, yes, just keep that in mind when looking at Pluto conjunct Chiron and Saturn in Pisces in the fourth, trine the ascendant. Right? So that's powerful. Fourth house, so homeland. So as far as creativity, this is going to be a tale of passion and plutonic, like sexuality, violence, and all sorts of stuff in our homeland. She's going to bring in the homeland. She's going to represent her homeland, which is Bradford, UK, England, right? Her mother died young, but she's got moon opposite Jupiter. So if you have this combination, it's not bad. Jupiter is bonifying this moon, this eighth house, again, bringing in that the scorpionic theme, Scorpio ascendant, South Node Scorpio, very deep, intense, sexual, violent, you know, powerful, intense, right? Scorpio's okay with violence. And, you know, just in case you thought it wasn't, it is. It's okay with Scorpio does not mind violence. It's kind of like the sex and violence. That's why they go together. It is what it is. I mean, it's a sign of like deep intensity, right? Uranus and Neptune, a little widely conjunct, but in Sagittarius, first house, but square Uranus square Saturn, so very rebellious. Neptune square Chiron, so really out of the box creativity, a lot of tension, right? Aggression, tension, creativity, passion, just completely unique and original. Jupiter in Capricorn is going to be quite well, second house for voice, for the voice of the characters, for the voice, for the body, for the sensuality. Jupiter in the second does bring success, but it's not great. It's not great dignity, but definitely with the opposition of the moon, it's kind of like saving this Jupiter, because moon bonifies Jupiter. Moon is Jupiter's sign of exaltation, and Jupiter is opposite. So this is like a good bad combination, you know. And so for creativity, it's like the enemy and the, you know, protagonist. Is that the right word? Yeah, like the hero and the enemy, the good guy and the bad guy. Her sun's in Leo, Mercury's in Leo. It's great for creativity, great for writers. Mercury is ruling, so Saturn would be ruling the third house. Saturn's in Pisces. And then Mercury is ruling most of the seventh and the MC, right? So bona fide by the sun. Sun's ruling the ninth house. Forgot what I was saying. And then she's got Mars and Venus conjunct, basically conjunct the MC. Mars and Venus, again, very passionate. Great for, you know, like exciting romance, sexuality, especially in Virgo, writing about, you know, she's a little bit too shy for that Scorpio ascendant. Mars and Venus in Virgo. It's very protective, I guess you could say. Especially South Node in the 12th house, Scorpio. Isolation, especially when young. South Node in the 12th tends to create, especially in like a sign like Scorpio, isolation, right? But creativity as well. But Venus is bonifying this 4th house, all these planets, Saturn, Chiron, Pluto, and Saturn ruling the 3rd house for writing. Venus is bonifying it, right? Because Venus is exalted in Pisces. Yeah. So you can see exactly why Wuthering Heights was so dramatic, so intense, so violent, sexual. It's just, you know, Scorpio ascendant, 8th house moon, Jupiter in debilitation, and then the squares with the Chiron and Pluto and Saturn. Writing about England, you know, 2nd and 3rd lord in the 4th, writing about England and all of the passions and stuff like that. And then she died young, age 30. So before even this was full, her North Node was fully activated. Interesting, right? Mars has a little bit of a square to Uranus, so it's shocking, but it is conjunct Venus, which is Venus is ruling the 6th. Venus is in poor dignity. It's debilitated. So, and again, Moon is in the 8th. Moon is in the 8th in good dignity, but this Jupiter is not good dignity. So, again, good, bad, and then, you know, this obviously the 6th house is being activated by the North Node in not a good way, right? Venus in Virgo, conjunct Mars. So, opposite Saturn. In any case, that is Emily Bronte. And that is Pluto conjunct Chiron. Very deep, intense, out of the box mindset. You know, that's what that conjunction will bring. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. And please hit the like button if you can, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I don't always comment, but don't, you know, like if you write a comment and I don't comment back, I try and like all the comments unless they're unlikable. But don't take offense if I don't comment. It's just I don't have anything to add, and it's not really the place to get into like lengthy conversations. I don't like to do that. So yeah. Any case, so once again, come to my class on Sunday, the 29th, and just email me to get on the list, 7 p.m. Philly time. $10 entrance fee. And book a reading with me. My email is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com, and my website is macroastrology.com. And I will see you again soon. The next one I'm going to do is Chiron conjunct the North Node, and then Chiron conjunct the South Node. And then we're going to move on to another planet. I haven't decided yet what we'll do. Maybe the sun. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe Uranus. I don't know. Anyway, bye for now. Thanks.